Hi there, it's Matt here with hopefully a fairly happy attitude, positive outlook on life, and nevertheless being a realist about things, because I believe that's extremely important. I am in a beautiful Canadian city. It's called Moncton. I really like it in Moncton. It's generally relaxed. There's a few things here and there throughout my life, though, and one of them has been lately that have happened to me that perhaps left me in a distraught state. I'm over those things, but even though they're so minor, it doesn't matter. I guess I'm just kind of a sensitive guy, you know? So maybe things like that will affect me still. Maybe there's a point in looking at that some more. Not particularly in this video, but just the idea of it for me personally. Because, well, when you're at your healthiest is generally when you care about the right things. And what does it mean to care about the right things? Just care about what you love. Just care about what you cherish, much more than what you despise, much more than what you don't like, that's for sure. Just care about the beauty in pacifism or even in action, but ultimately the beauty in being your free self. You know, what's interesting about history and society is that it could have evolved in so many ways. That it generally evolved, and that we are generally to completely growing into an environment which is actually mostly pretty kind to us, is actually a stupendous thing, given before they actually had to have revolutions where, you know, I was about to say people got killed in those, which is the truth, but then I'm thinking about the war that's going on. That's separate from us, but you know, that doesn't mean it's not happening between Ukraine and Russia. And I'm sad about that, even though I barely ever think about it. Every time it pops up, I get sad about it. Because, well, maybe we're sheltered, us Canadians, you know. Maybe we're sheltered from that truth. Maybe that's a really good thing, but maybe the fact it's still happening, you know. Even though we have grown to be pretty stable as a society, as a society or here, the fact that our world is on its edge every maybe few months, that something extremely, to few weeks, that something extremely horrible will happen. You know, even the fact that that is still a thing, that to me just screams out, maybe we're the opposite of stable in some ways. And maybe I'm just extremely fortunate to be in a part that can at least feign stability, and at the most be stability. Because maybe if I was in Ukraine right now, maybe I wouldn't be having such a good time. My presumption would be that most people are protected, but what does that mean when some are not, you know? Since we tend to forget that we're lucky. That's, I guess, the point I'm driving to more than anything else. We tend to forget that we're lucky. That we have just the fact that, for crying out loud, I have a disability payment. It's stupendous. And the fact that they considered basic income with Bernie, and of course Bernie was not expected to win. In a way, I believe it was probably partially stolen from him, but not wholly. That's a concept that's debatable in many ways. But you know, they considered the Taoism, which is pretty cool. I don't know how exactly that would have worked, but if it could have worked, that would be a beautiful safety net. And there's disability in the US as well. And there you notice it. I'm considering the first world countries. And even then, they're being affected. Europe is considered a pretty beautiful place to live for a lot of people. You know? So, like, it's much easier to brush things aside when you think, like, Africa. Oh, well, they're always going to be going through perils, and eventually, I don't know, fucking Bill Gates or something is going to step in there and be like, here's a few $100 million for your, you know, nutritional needs. And you're going to be like, oh, thanks, homie. And then he's going to fly back out to his mansion and so on. That's the thing. Helping provide them with food and water. But the troubling thing about peace and equity is that not everyone thinks the same way. You know? Not everyone is on the same playing ground. Not everyone is on the same even field. In terms of thought, in terms of minds, a mindset, in terms of how you feel about things. So that's a very big problem in a way. I see it as a huge problem that we can at least be on the stable level that says, let's not contribute to murder, whether it be personally or for profit, or, you know, let's not contribute to war. Like, honestly, I mean, I feel bad for those soldiers, you know, but in a way it sucks. It sucks heavily because it's probably a pretty easy job until it goes into a really hard job. But that's in the realities of life. Just take your pad and put it forward. And then you're stuck walking down this doomsday. This doomsday reality where you are actually at risk of being killed. You know? That's extremely sad. There's an irony in how I started the video with, yay, we are Canadian and we are sheltered from the troubles that face us as a reality and as a society and as mankind and so on. And then I'm just talking about it. But there's a beauty in it as well. More so beauty than an irony. Because the irony would land in, well, you are sheltered, so why care? But there's actually a problem with that. There's a massive problem with that. Just the fact that we do care is probably making things a fair bit better, so let's continue caring, you know? For those that do. I say this as someone who hasn't actually donated anything, minus some charity work. In fairness, I'm not in the best position to donate because, well, maybe maybe Wendy's is calling my name. Or maybe I don't know, just there's restaurants out there. Oh my god, birds. And they won't shut up. Maybe I'd appreciate some peace of mind for the video, please. Okay. I cannot sound it. It's like sometimes they kind of notice you and then they kind of like shut the fuck up for a little bit and then they just kind of keep on going. Anyways, he's actually following me around and I'm convinced this bird hates me. I had a massive fear of birds once. I was high with a friend and I believe that's what it was, and then I said it against my mom like a few years later. I said I'm scared the birds are going to eat my face off, which it's actually partially this team for this film from this popular director way back who created the film Psycho. And he looks really how does the guy look? Stereotypical in his outfit. The way he looks, he has a bald head, he's slightly heavy, and looks like a really caring grandfather, except apparently he was really rude to his actors and actresses the whole time that he directed movies. And I cannot remember his fucking name, but he did this movie, I think it's called like Crows or something, where yeah, that's the thing. It's, this woman is petrified because of birds. Crows are following her around. Granted, these are not crows, I don't think. I don't know my animals very well. But they're just birds. Let's just say birds. He's petrified, or she's petrified, yeah, because she's being followed around by birds. And I just kind of, I think what happened there is that idea kind of got implemented in my head. And then suddenly I was scared of him, except you realize that in film, there's a logic that doesn't pertain to reality, you know? Like, ooh, let's, it can go from anywhere from let's have emotive discussions 24/7 that lead to a plot point, or let's jump out of a moving car and land on another one because that leads to a plot point. One's obviously way less realistic than the other. It's the emotive discussions. We're all we're all still frames as a society, emotionally, of course, except, you know, sad boys and so on. There's a movement that's been made for that kind of the emotional virtue of life, and how it should apply to men as much as it should women, you know. So where was I? Not really anywhere, except kind of having a little cry inside of my head, but not outside of it, you know, because while I would, I just can't. But for, you know, those deaths, because it's reached for the war, I mean, it's reached the tens of thousands. So anyways, that's actually an abysmal, that's actually like the worst number I've ever heard of. They said it got a lot worse during the World War, but still. Anyways, I'm just happy they're not, you know, saying launch the nukes, because that actually starts a world war. There's a beauty in being outside, and I'm kind of sad about it, because while in 100 years it is potentially the truth that we are no longer outside, we are simply inside, and then we slowly die anyways. Because global warming, the warming of the weather, it's coming quickly, and it's not a pleasant sight. And you know what this world needs? It needs a shake-up in a good way. Because the only thing that shakes people up, that shakes the leaders up, is complaining. But they need like to have a moral awakening for us to be actually able to deal with this in a precise manner that actually like completely works. Because, well, let's just plant trees. That's a beautiful idea. Then let's plant more. That's even more beautiful. Keep on going. Plant trees everywhere, and that's great. But trees only get you so far. A conversation I had with my kind of psych worker, not really, I live in a group housing worker, reflected that idea quite well. We discussed other things. But how, you know, trees being planted is beautiful, but will it really solve our crisis, or is it just a fairly easy way to do it instead of a very hard way to do it? And I say that's comparatively, because it's still hard, you know. It still needs to have workers who do it. They don't just plant themselves, for crying out loud. But you know, that's adding in like a few years. But there is something admirable, however, in it being done. That I cannot deny it. In fact, I wholly applaud it. There's something massively admirable in the fact that, well, since we're not really, except for electric cars and solar panels and so on, that's starting to make the move considerably. That it feels like there should be a grand effort with like scientists and all that jazz toward like maybe like a technological product that serves to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. I don't know if that's even possible at all. I don't know if it's been discussed and they just threw it out the window. But that is a beautiful idea. That is a gorgeous idea. And yeah, just facts of life as it stands say that we are doing pretty good in some ways, or doing very good in some ways. What keeps people entertained is moving. It always is. We are doing fairly bad in some ways, we're doing pretty bad in some ways. So just about what I'd envision any modern society to essentially be. Unless it really drifts off in a fucked up direction, then it's like everything is bad, you know. Trees are on fire, cats are dying. They don't even have 9 lives after all. But yeah. You know what's interesting to me? I was thinking about it myself, which I don't, because like when I was younger, I always thought about my perception. I always thought about like, oh, this is how, like, okay, for example, let me give you an example. So a Facebook picture that I posted online, well, I accompanied it with a caption because a lot of people would, I was high as fuck, a lot of people would post captions of a rap lyric to demonstrate how they feel. I just posted an entire verse from like Biggie Smalls or something. I must have really loved that verse, except I never actually listened to that song that the verse contained. Now, there's a point in that, well, for starters, growing up, you know, you are different inherently as a person. You are not matured. You are seeking out your own self. Yeah. Me, it happened way later. Maybe like 19, 20. There I actually started seeking out myself in a very appropriate way, a very good way, which was to soul search by just grabbing onto what you felt was right and letting go of what you knew was wrong. And yeah, that I felt wrong about it right after. It feels weird saying that, but the quote, the Biggie Smalls, the beautiful lyrics, the gorgeous lyrics, I just deleted the whole account after that. I was a stubborn child, I was a weird child, but I was a good child. Despite all of my awkward moments, I could swear I had a lot of morality in my man. I was a moral kid. I just didn't fit in. I didn't get it. You know, like people were some type of way in order to reflect how cool they were, in order to reflect how interesting and awesome and how, you know, they were the reason to be. They were the reason to go on their profile and to click the like button and to click the follow and to click the favorite and so on. And I feel in many ways I just joined into that shit because other people wanted to join them. And other people did. That I could have just stayed out of it. And that's the main problem. Is the societal perception. And maybe the fact all of my classmates were like, hey, join Facebook, join Facebook, join Facebook. So anyways. I think that's it. 18 minutes of something. 18 minutes of pure beauty. This video will be remembered for ages, generations to come. They will praise this video, unlike my other ones, which they haven't touched. I swear I'm about to garner a mass following with this one, ladies and gents. This is it. The moment of truth. The moment where the stars rise and I rise the fuck up. Anyways, see ya.